Hi everyone, it's Paul and welcome to my video for day 3 of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Recording this just a few hours before the now delayed start to day 2. Obviously we've completely lost the cross country this year. The idea I had on my video yesterday of moving it a couple of days, it sounds like they did actually consider that, but apparently there's absolutely no chance on the course. We've also now heard the sad news with Nicky Henderson. It looks like all of his horses are just knackered. We don't know what the full story is, but John Bond's out. Champ is out of the Stayers Hurdle. Shishkin is out the Gold Cup. There's something which we didn't know until they ran. That's the issue, I suppose. But there's something seriously wrong with the Henderson yard at the moment. What I would say is, as someone asked me, what do I think with regards to the champion hurdle, because Lucia came third, I think the likelihood is this was the worst champion hurdle probably on record, if I'm being honest. Or probably since at least Punjabi won about 20 years ago now. Yeah, because she got a very close third. She's only beaten 3 or so lengths. But I think the fact that Irish Point, I know he's a very, very good horse, but he got within a length and he's essentially a 3-miler now. God, what Constitution Hill would, if he was fully fit, would have done to these isn't even worth thinking about. So that's my take on that. But anyway, we crack on with day 3. Now, day 3's action moves to the new course at Cheltenham. Much more of a stamina test than even the old course. It's a much steeper, tighter track. It can drain a bit quicker, though, which is, I suppose, quite good. It can drain a bit quicker than the old course. So it's a new day, a new challenge, as it would be. Kicking off with the 130, which is the Turner Novices Chase. It's a Grade 1 over 2 mile 4. And it looks to concern, if we're being honest, the 4 at the head of the market, and it is so hard to separate them all. There's nothing really as an outsider where you go, oh, I think they've got a chance. It looks to ride with the head of the market. The current co-favourites in this, starting off with it, is Facile Vega for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. Always going to be money for Mullins horses at the moment. Obviously, he was a very, very high-class bumper horse and hurdler as well. Been chasing this year, but what I would say is his jumping has been slightly suspect over fences, to say the least. But what I do think is, like I said on the video yesterday, quite often what you find is with bumper horses, especially bumper winners and ones which have run well over the last few years, they do end up over the more aggressive trip. So I think this step up in trip here might actually be in his favour, because I think he'll get a bit more time between fences, go a beat slower, and it'll help his jumping. The other co-favourite is Grey Dawning for the Skeltons, Harry and Dan Skelton. This one, for all the world, looked like it was going for the Brown, otherwise known as the RSA. And it was very, very late in the day, about 5 days ago, they suddenly went, no, we're going the Turners. Now, it did surprise me that they went for this, because he was a very good winner over 3 miles latest. Saying that, though, he also only finished 3/4 of a length behind Ginny's Destiny, who we'll get to in a second, over course and distance earlier this year, and gave him £3. Off level weights today as well, so 3/4 of a length, £3. I can understand why he's favourite, because that makes complete sense, to be honest with you, that, he stays 3 mile and you do need a good stayer here. He's got tight form with Ginny's Destiny. And he's got a £3 weight pull. Ginny's Destiny, Harry Cobden, Paul Nicholls. This horse just loves this course. It's as simple as that. 3-time course and distance winner already this season. One time as well off top weight in a handicap. Now that takes some doing, I'll tell you that much. He's been improving, and this has been the target all season. It hasn't even been a case of, we'll multiple enter him. This has been the number one target. Now, the other one of serious note here is Irocco. Ollie Greedle trains, John Joe O'Neill Jr. takes the ride. This one obviously was a very impressive winner of the Martin Pipe Hurdle last year. Very, very strong after the last hurdle, so clearly has got a big engine about him. Only had one chase start this year and couldn't have won any more impressive for me. And put away since. The slight temper of my enthusiasm is the experience level over fences. One start and then to go back for a grade 1 at Cheltenham at the festival after one start. It's a concern, but he clearly likes the course. He clearly stays, and he has a hell of a lot of improvement in him, I would say. But for the win, I am actually going to go with Facile Vega. To be honest, I wanted Gaelic Warrior to go for this, and he stayed with 2, but I'm going to take a chance on Facile Vega here because I just think the step up to 2.5 is exactly what he needs. They would have schooled him well, like they would have done with the likes of Gaelic Warrior. And it's going to be a tight race, this, I feel. But I just think Facile Vega might just find that a little bit more. 1, 2, 3 then for the Turner Novices Chase. Facile Vega from Ginny's Destiny and Grey Dawning. The 2:10 is the Pertemps handicap hurdle. It's a grade 3 over 3 mile. I'm gutted. I really wanted a horse called Panda Boy to run in this. I watched the Dublin Racing Festival and the Pertemps qualifier, and to put it blunt, I think Panda Boy had a bit of a handbrake job, I thought. Just anchored at last, got trouble about 3 out, and he finished about 5 lengths off him without even really trying. The good news is I found out he's going straight to the Grand National. So if you want my Grand National pick early, there he is, Panda Boy. Dour stayer, good over hurdles, and very good chaser as well. I'm just gutted he wasn't here today. Now, the problem we've got here is now, and it's the ongoing problem, is the issue with the Henderson horses. As I make this video, Chantry House and Mill Green are still in for Nicky Henderson. Whether they stay in, I seriously doubt it, with bear in mind everything else is being knocked out. To be honest with you, Chantry House had a typical, what I would call Pertemps profile, and he loves the course, but he had a big weight, so he wouldn't have been the selection. And Mill Green, while he's always running at this festival, he's another year older. And I just, to be honest with you, I didn't fancy any of them for the frame. Now, those who watch my Each Way Multiple video that I put up the other day will know the selection here already is, I'm going to, the Gouth Chweel for Ted Walsh. Shane O'Callaghan takes the ride, good young rider, and he gets to claim 5. He came first and second in the 2 qualifiers. He's a hold-up horse, which if you look at Pertemps in recent years, quite often you need that, especially on the heavy ground, because you do get quite a few go absolutely screaming off in the lead. And I think that will work to his advantage. Stays all day, loves soft, and a brilliant weight off 10 stone 10, plus the £5 claim. He's in off just below 10.5 stone, which is absolutely superb weight for this. So he is, for me, he is the selection on this one. Very close second to this one, and I'll explain why, is Cletus Poulor. Worst named horse I've ever seen. Gordon Elliott, Jack Kennedy takes the ride in the Jigginstown colours. Came second in his qualifier, which was good. But he's also got a very tidy piece of form coming second to Ballyburn, which is obviously, after today, could turn out to be an amazing piece of form. Gets in off 10 stone 13. He seems to handle soft ground. There's very little between the two of them, but I just think on Gouth Queel, with the £5 claim, that is a featherweight. So we'll wait to see. He's effectively getting £9 off Cletus Poulor with that. So I think it'll be close between them two, though. Others to mention, Ikari Allen is interesting for Willie Mullins. Mark Walsh taking the ride. This horse definitely goes best fresh. That's one thing we have learned. And he's coming into this race having been off for over 100 days. So they clearly figured out he can't run every other month or every month. And they've kept him fresh for this, which I think is good. Came third in his qualifier. He is kind of the class horse of the race. He's got a bigger weight with 11 stone 2, but everything looks prepped for a really good run. One who I think is the nibbling at him now at 14-1, but I think is going under the radar, is Gabby's Cross, Henry de Bromhead, O'Keefe taking the ride. Came second in his qualifier, doing all the best work late. Could have been a bit of a handbrake job. Gets in off 10 stone 7 and loves soft ground. Now, as we've saw with Henry de Bromhead's horses on Tuesday, and it's been mentioned they do grow another leg, expecting to see more of that on the Wednesday today. But Gabby's Cross definitely comes into consideration. And the other one to mention for the home team, as it would be, is Cuthbert Dibble, one of the worst named horses to go with Cletus Pool. Oh, God, they've really got them going this year, haven't they? And this is for the Twiston Davis, Nigel Twiston Davis, Sam Twiston Davis taking the ride. He's 2 for 2 this season, stays all day, loves the mud. Unfortunately, when he won latest, he did get a £5 penalty for that, so he's up to 10 stone 13, which may or may not anchor him. But a good run looks assured. But for the winner, I'm sticking with what I've said for the last few weeks of Gareth Quill. And I think it'll be close between him and Cletus. 1, 2, 3 then for the Pertemps final. Gareth Quill from Cletus Paula. And do you know what? I'm going to put Gabby's Cross in there as well. I'm seeing how well Bromhead's done so far this week. The 250 is the Ryanair Chase, grade 1 over 2.5 miles. I suspect this isn't the greatest renewal of the Ryanair we've ever seen, to be honest with you. It's nowhere near as bad a renewal of the Champion Hurdle. But there's no real, new upper like superstar or standard one here. Banbridge has been favourite for this race literally all winter since about December, but he is heavily on the drift now. The Joseph O'Brien, JJ Slevin trained horse. He's only had one run this year, won, and he was brilliant at Aintree. At the Grand National meeting last year. The problem is with this horse, he has to have good ground. And I suppose the reason for the drift is people are looking at it now, I don't know if there's any more rain in the area, and thinking, unless it dries up staggering, I think the ground might have gone against him. If it does suddenly dry out and its goods are soft, then he is the most likely winner, that is for certain. Stage Star is in here for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden, and he loves it around here. You can ignore his last run on New Year's Day. I actually heard a video or saw a video of Paul Nicholls for the Owners for Owners Club speaking to the jockey that day beforehand. And you could tell there was no real excitement or confidence. He said, we need to get a run into him, hunt him round and take care of him, basically, which is race talk for he's probably not ready for it, or, it's not his ideal conditions, so look after him. Easily won the Turners last year, which was a really good piece of form. He's a 3-time course and distance winner, and all of his best RPRs are when fresh, and he's effectively been kept fresh since January. I think the problem I've got with Stage Star is there's a couple, or at least one more likely front runner in here. So where he got a completely uncontested lead last year, will he get it this year? The one who I think will take him on is Protectorat for Harry and Dan Skelton. He faded, having run well for a really long way behind Shishkin in the Denman Chase. Did it from the front that day, jumped impeccably, and turning in looked like he had a chance. He just blew up from before 2 outs, and even though he's been placed in a Gold Cup, he seems to be getting more enthusiastic with his racing style as he gets older, and I think he just ran out of steam. I immediately thought at the time they need to drop him back, and it looks like that's what they are doing. Obviously, he goes well around the course, being a former Gold Cup winner, and I could see him taking on Stage Star. There's also another horse up front who I think will end up taking on Stage Star, who I'm definitely surprised was declared here, and that is Ahoy Senor for Lucinda Russell. Derek Fox taking the ride. Obviously, this guy's been a standing dish in all the 3-mile races. Most recently, very recently, ran in the Cotswold Chase at Cheltenham in the trials meeting. Was going really well, but unfortunately his saddle slipped. And that's kind of, to be honest, I feel sorry for this horse. It's kind of been his story in recent times. There's always been going well, or he falls, or he's, something's happened, his saddle slipped. For me, he looks a dour stayer, so the step back in trip to 2 Mile 4 does surprise me somewhat, I must be honest. It does surprise me. But he's definitely worth his place in the lineup. Another one who's stepping back in trip is Capodanno, Willie Mullins, Mark Walsh. This actually won the Cotswold really well at 3 miles. So again, he didn't look to me to be screaming out to coming back to 2.5 mile. Saying that though, Willie Mullins has no other aces in this one. So I don't know if it was just Mullins is sitting there going, right, well, I've got my Gold Cup team ready. I've got no one in the Ryanair, so he's stepping back in trip. But he's a very, very capable horse. You don't win a Cotswold Chase without being so. So he clearly stays. I just wonder if the trip might be a bit short. And the maddest one to come in here, I suppose, is Conflated for Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy. Not the ideal prep. He's actually unseated in his last 2 starts. Now, it's weird, this horse. He's ended up at the Ryanair. He was entered in, I think he was in the Gold Cup. I'm also pretty sure he was entered in the cross country over 3 miles 6. And he ends up running over 2.5 mile, which is just a bit crazy for me. But do you know what? He's a good horse on his day, but again, like I said about Quilixios, which turned out to be true on the Tuesday, very inconsistent. On a going day, he's amazing. If he's not, and it's too risky. Elliott does have, I think, a better chance in this one with Phil Dorr. His second string jockey, Keith Donoghue, takes the ride. He's only had 2 runs this year, but he jumped well and came second in both, and both were grade 2s. The question mark is stepping up. It's the opposite problem of the likes of Ahoy Senor, Capodanno and Conflated. He is stepping up markedly in trip on a very, very stiff course. And that's the one thing that is slightly tempering my confidence on this one. And it does make me think, will it work? But for the selection, I'm actually going for a reigning champion to defend, and that is Envoi Allen for Henry de Bromhead, Rachel Blackmore. Obviously, he was the last year's winner. Did it really well, to be fair. And okay, Shishkin didn't fully fire that day, but he jumps and stays. That's one great thing about him on this day. The concern, I suppose you'd say, is it was his only win that he's had in the last 2 years, the Ryanair last year. But saying that, he loves Cheltenham and he only seems to run here once a year. He's got a record over hurdles and bumpers and fences of winning in 3 of the last 5 Cheltenham festivals, which is a hell of a record. His form when he's been beaten this year, now if you look at it, the one, I think it was at Down Royal, won it. He got beat by the likes of, finished ahead of him were like Fast or Slow, and Jerry Colombe and Gallopin Deschamps was in there. So he's highly tried at the best level. And as I said, I don't think this is a vintage renewal. So he is the selection to retain for me. 1, 2, 3 then for the Ryanair, Envoi Allen from Protectorat. And you know what? I'm going to actually put Capodanno in there because I think he's another one who could be a class horse of the race. The 3:30 is the Stayers Hurdle. It's a Group 1 over 3 mile, and anyone who's followed me over the winter on the WhatsApp service, listen to the video on Monday, knows I have been a huge T Hoopu fan for a long, long time. On him at good prices, around 4, 7 to 2. Got a bit of 11 to 4 earlier this week. Currently around 2 to 1. Gordon Elliott trains. Jack Kennedy takes the ride. Came third in this last year. And if we're being honest, it was under a shocking ride. It was awful. I think Davy Russell was on it that day because he came back in money. And got caught too far back, got caught wide, got caught on heels on the bend, met more trouble going to 1 out, somehow run into the back of a horse after the last switch. It just, everything that went wrong. And he still finished a close third, which is credit to the horse, really. He's only had 1 run this season and amazingly won the Grade 1 Hatton Grace, which probably wouldn't have been ideal conditions for him, prepare him for this. This has been his sole target, though. They wanted to keep him fresh. He goes on soft, he stays all day, and providing we don't get any more jockey mishaps, I just find him impossible to oppose. I think the main rival might actually end up coming from England, which is Crambo for Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke taking the ride. He's 2 for 3 this season, and that includes a win in a Grade 1 long walk hurdle at Ascot, which statistically is a very good trial for this race. Even though Ascot's a completely different course from Cheltenham, you will always find the horses that win or run well at the festival go into that race. My concern is he's never run at this course before, so all of his form have kind of been on flat tracks. So will he handle the hill? Will he stay the extra distance that the hill brings in? That's the only thing that slightly tempers my enthusiasm. One who will definitely stay, will definitely go up the hill and everything in between, is obviously the former Grand National winner Noble Yates, who's in here. Emmett Mullins trains. Harry Cobden, interested in booking ride. Obviously, his name speaks for himself. Won the Grand National, got placed in the Grand National last year. Won over course and distance the Cleve Hurdle in January. And, that's as good, and that's considered the trial, isn't it? So that's as good as any. My slight concern was that day, he was getting weight, because obviously he's known as a chaser. He was getting weight from a lot of the field. This is run off level rates. So like with a few of them, I can see him staying on. I just think someone might have a bit more toe possibly if the ground dries out off level weights, and I think that someone will be T Hoopu. But Noble Yates looks destined to book a big race. For all I think this is, I wouldn't call it a trial, but clearly next month at Aintree is going to be the big one. You've got to mention the previous champions, Florin Porter, Paisley Park, Sire de Burley. Florin Porter, I did fancy for the 4 miler, and he'd made a really good start to chasing. Bizarrely, they just suddenly, pulled rank on that, even though, he had one run where it wasn't particularly great, but he still only had a couple of runs, and he's come back to the stayers hurdle. He wasn't good enough last year. He tried it from the front like he had done in the previous years. And that was the reason he went chasing. He said, we just, we have to go chasing now. He just can't match the speed possibly anymore, but he's back again. Paisley Park, God almighty, what a horse this is. And this year, he's running as well as he's ever run. And I just hope they haven't over-raced him this year compared to what he wants, because he's been putting, there's only so many class 3 or, group graded stayers hurdles, but he's getting on in years now, but he hits his flat spot, stays on. He'll run a good race at a good price. And Sire de Burley for Elliott and Walsh, obviously the reigning champion. He's 12 years old, but the problem we've got is I think he's better on better ground. He's only had one run as well this year, and he came 7th of 8th. So last year possibly could have been a bit of a blip. For all, obviously, I didn't tip him up last year, but we've won on him in, I think it was the Pertemps would have tipped him up in the years before. But it's great to see him back. Home by the Lee, there's been support for, but this horse has been massively out of form all season. So something will have to have gone staggeringly right for him to suddenly bounce back to form. But 1, 2, 3, though, in the stayers hurdle, T Hoopu from Crambo and Noble Yates. Which brings us on to the 410, which is a race I really don't like, which is the Plate Handicap Chase, Group 3, over 2 mile 4. The current favourite is Crebley for the O'Neills, John Joe O'Neill and John Joe O'Neill Jr. JP McManus owned. He's got a great weight. He was laying it down to Ginny's Destiny a couple last run. A couple of runs ago, over course and distance, but did fall. And then he reopposed him again and was only beaten about 6 lengths. So that's quite solid form. Currently, though, actually his form, it's priced out as 3-1. I don't think it's necessarily screaming out now that as good value for all he'll run a good race. Theatre Man is interesting. Richard Bandy trains, so not exactly a big known trainer, but he's booked Harry Cobden to ride, so that is a big jockey booking. He was staying on all the way to the line behind Ginny's Destiny last time out, despite making a horrendous mistake at the bottom of the hill. He's got in off 10 stone 12, and that is a lovely weight. Shake 'em Up Harry is a really good each way price at 12-1. Ben Paulin trains, Ben Jones taking the ride. He was a Group 3 winner over course and distance in January. And he came 3rd in this race last year. The only thing that's slightly putting me off is he's £7 higher this time around. I don't think necessarily this race is as strong as it was last year, but a lot paid top 6, so I can easily see him entering the frame. Il Rodotto, God, he loves this course and distance, doesn't he? Paul Nicholls rides. He's actually kicked Bryony Frost off and brought Gingle on, claiming 5. It's a shame because I think Bryony really gets on well with him. So I understand with the claim, but I think Bryony is, like she was with Frodon, really gets on with him. He's never been out the first 6 in 6 races at the course. Now, most bookmakers are paying top 6 on this, so that's worth taking into consideration. He was only beaten on the line in the big handicap here in December. I actually did him, and he was there the whole way, and he literally got nailed on the line. It was so unlucky. But he's ultra consistent. He didn't run his best race in this last year, I've got to be honest. But, sometimes horses run flat. But I think Il Rodotto at 14-1 is, I think he's a great each way bet, to be honest with you. Other one to mention as well is the top weight, James de Burley. He has been running really consistently and really well without winning. The problem is, because he's running well, he keeps eking up the weights. So while he could go well for a long way, it will be a a Herculean effort, really, if he was to get his head in front. But for the winner, I am going with... Oh, before I get onto that, I'm a bit gutted. I really like Let's Be Clear About It for the Cromwell Yard here, because I thought this was the ideal trip and track, but he isn't running. He isn't running in this now. He's running in something else, which is a shame, because this was the only race where I really thought he had a good chance. So that was a bit of a shame. He was actually going to be my selection up until this week. But obviously it's a shame he's out. But for the winner, I'm actually going to go with Theatre Man. I think the jockey booking for Cobden for a relatively unknown trainer is big. He's got a really good form line behind Ginny's Destiny, and I think that race she's running in is a lot stronger than this handicap here, and really good weight as well. 1, 2, 3 then for the plate handicap. I'm going for Theatre Man from Il Ridotto and Crebley. The 450 is the Dawn Run, as it was formerly known, Muir's Novices Hurdle over 2 mile, 1 furlong. To be honest, it's quite a decent sized field, but it's only worth, for me, on all known form, looking at the top 4 in the market. Honourable mention for Golden Ace, Scott Train, Lorcan Williams taking the ride. She's 2 for 2 over hurdles, but at a much, much lower grade. For all saying that, she was placed in a grade 2 bumper, so she's clearly got something about her. But that bumper was actually 9 lengths behind Dysart Enos, who we're going to get to next. So again, line through form, even on her best bumper form, she's still got loads to find with Desert Enos, who reopposes. For all, I think she's got more improvement in her. Desert Enos, as I said, is in here. Fergal O'Brien, Paddy Brennan taking the ride. He's unbeaten in bumpers, hurdles, everything. You can't really ask for much more. He was a multiple graded level bumper winner and is 2 for 2 over hurdles. Now, this is the highest level of hurdle race she's ever been in. In normal terms, I think she would warrant being a good thing, and I think she could be a good thing at Aintree next month. But I just think in this one, there's 2 typically Irish horses that I think could just be a bit better than her at this stage in the career. The current favourite is Brighter Days Ahead. Gordon Elliott trained, Jack Kennedy takes a ride, and he's been the talking horse on the preview circuit for the last 2 weeks. Everyone's saying she can't be beaten, she's good, she's this, that and the other. And as such, a price came in from about 6s into the current price of around 6 to 4, which is insane. But you can understand why. Unbeaten in bumpers and hurdles, won a grade 3 hurdle latest, didn't jump particularly great, but still had the engine to get through. Also a listed winner. The form's there in the book, and probably more to come. But again, anyone who's followed me this winter, away from these videos, and anyone who's heard what I've been saying the last few days knows I am a massive, massive fan of Jade de Grugy for Willie Mullins and Paul Townend. Another unbeaten mare. But it was the way she jumped, travelled and pulled away in the grade 3 that she ran in the latest. She's a proper, my God, she could be a chaser almost even now. I think she's a proper big, strong, well-travelling horse. And it was just everything about the last one. She just oozed class. The breeding on her is absolutely immense. And it's weird, again, on the preview circuit, if you listen or watch them, there's definitely a quiet confidence about this horse. It's like they're happy to let Brighter Days Ahead be the talking horse. And do you know what? Brighter Days Ahead, she might be the better horse on the day. But there's a real strong confidence in the Mullins yard for this one, and there has been for a long time. Currently around 11 to 4. I just think this is a potential... I think she could be potentially a superstar, which is a big thing to say after hardly any runs. I've just got a feeling, and I've had a feeling about this horse, even from before the last run, that there's something special about her. 1, 2, 3 then for the 450, which is the Dawn Run, Muir's Novices Hurdle, Jade de Grugy from Brighter Days Ahead, and Dysart Enos. Which brings us to the concluding race of day 3, which is an absolute nightmare. It always is. It's the Kim Muir Amateur Riders Handicap, a Class 2 over 3 mile 2. I don't know what it is with the festival. What is it with putting nightmare races at the end of the day? Like on the Tuesday, we get the 4 miler for amateurs. On the Wednesday, you get the bumper, which anything can happen. The Thursday, you get the amateur riders, Kim Muir, and then the conditionals in the Martin Pipe. It's as if they want to try and make the bookies go home happy, I guess. But we've got to look for a winner in this. Honourable mention, and I know some people always say, I like backing huge price horses. One who may be outrun his price at a big price is Rapper. Daily trained, AJ O'Neill taking the ride. He actually pulled up in this last year. He travelled well, but made a really bad mistake. But he is a previous course and distance winner. If you actually look, though, recently, he did come a close fourth over course and distance behind horses who are actually entered and going for Grade 1 races this week. So on literal form, that is really, really good form, I guess. The problem you've got is he's ultra inconsistent. Like, as you've seen, I know he made a mistake. He pulled up last year, but then comes a close fourth behind potentially graded horses. So he's 25-1. I wouldn't discourage anyone from it, but on balance of probability, you don't know what you're going to get. Also a big price, and I think is overpriced, is Wacker Clan for Henry de Bromhead. Gleeson takes the ride. Don't know a lot about that jockey, to be honest with you. He showed a liking for the course when he won over 3 Mile 1 here in October. Now, I do like a good front runner in these amateur riders races, I must be honest, especially if the jockey can get the fractions right. He had a pipe opener back over 2 Mile last month. To be honest, he was never going to win because he's clearly a stayer. And I just think 14-1 on this is a huge price. There's been good money around all week for Cool Survivor, for Gordon Elliott. Harry Swan takes the ride, presuming that's, someone tell me that's the son of, I'm going to guess, Charlie Swan at this stage. God, Charlie Swan's been retired X amount of time. So yeah, I'm going to guess it's a relation there. He is certainly bred for this trip. But my issue is, I know there's money, but on form and jumping, I know it's Henry de Bromhead. He had to have come on an absolute bundle for it. And there's no way of knowing if he has. I know the way you're thinking is interesting here. Derek O'Connor takes the ride for Gavin Cromwell. He's another one, like Meeting of the Waters or whatever it was, who got placed behind Chianti Classico that JP has bought very late in the day. The overall form isn't that great. And as soon as JP bought it, the price has gone and it's absolutely tumbled in. He's favourite now. But on all-known form, I wasn't confident on him anyway. As I said, there's much wiser people than me. But I just base it on form. I wasn't confident on him anyway. And I think the price has gone on it. For all, Derek O'Connor rode a superb ride on Corbett's Cross on Tuesday, which certainly does help the occasion. I've just got a feeling Angel's Dawn is going to retain here. And I know it's hard to do. Curlin rides. PA King takes the ride as last year. As I said, won this race last year really, really well. Travelled around in second or third and stole it coming down the hill. He came back with a good third in a Grade 3 latest, and that was after 2 shorter distance hurdle races. So I think they've been quite clever with him. They kept his nose in, keep him over hurdles, put him over fences, and I think he'll be primed again for this. Yeah, he's a bit higher in the weights than last year, but I think he's the type who could have a bit more to come. So the 1, 2, 3 then for the ever difficult Kim Muir Amateur Riders Handicap Chase, Angel's Dawn from Wacker Clan, and you know what? I'm actually going to put Rapper in there as well. That's it for day 3. Check back for day 4, and good luck, guys. Take care.